Hello and welcome back to the Gavel Gab podcast. This episode, I want to introduce you to a truly multi-talented force, Heather Reese. Heather is not your average personal injury attorney. She is a powerhouse Latina bringing passion, purpose, and personality to everything she does. In and out of the courtroom, Heather is a fierce advocate for those who have been harmed or underserved. As a skilled negotiator, she has a gift for making people feel seen, heard, and valued, whether she's securing justice or striking a deal. But Heather isn't just wielding a legal pad. She's also a plus-size model, content creator, and speaker. She is on a mission to promote body positivity, representation, and intersectional empowerment through her work. Living with an autoimmune condition has taught her how to set boundaries, manage energy, and choose rest without guilt. I need help with that. And it feeds into her superpower, knowing when to push, when to pause, and how to protect her peace without ever shrinking who she is. Whether she's advocating in court, speaking on stage, or slaying in a power suit, Heather leads with authenticity, joy, and a little sparkle. I cannot wait for you to hear how she takes up space, owns her worth, and confidently says yes to herself first. Please join me in welcoming Heather Reese to Gavel Gab. Heather, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Awesome. Well, let's dive in. I know I gave quite a lengthy introduction, but I want you to give us your elevator pitch on the things we need to know about you, who you are, why you are the way that you are, and just all the things.
Yeah. So, that was an amazing bio for me. But I would say, honestly, I just didn't want to be like, your father's lawyer. That's kind of how I've always said it. I wanted to be more than that. And I also think that in today's society, you can't just be one thing. Like, we don't live in that time frame where you can just be a singular professional. You have to be multidimensional and you have to have multiple streams of income. And I think for me, I learned that in my late 20s, early 30s, and was like, I need to figure out other ways to utilize the skills that I have in order to showcase myself and put myself out there.
Yeah, and we need more people doing that. So I don't know if you've heard of the term multi-potentialite. There's a TED Talk on it. I highly recommend it because I think you would enjoy it. But it talks about how society wasn't built for people with a variety of interests that actually want to pursue them. It's like you have your job and your career, and that's kind of who you are, and maybe you have a hobby. But people don't quite know what to do with people that have all these different facets that don't necessarily go together neatly. And I think people like you and people like me have probably lived our whole life experiencing that pushback when people are like, what do you mean you're a lawyer and you're competing at Miss North Carolina in pageants? And why are you on TikTok? And why do you have a podcast? Like, why are you doing all of these things? Lawyers don't do that. And I love the phrase, not your father's lawyer. I think that's both what we're trying to do. So I'd love to start by going to the beginning. What inspired you or led you to go to law school in the first place?
So, yeah, I went to law school because my best friend's dad, when I was young, was a lawyer. And I honestly hated going to school. Like, I hated high school. And I wanted like any excuse not to have to go to school. And one day he was like, well, do you want to come see an arbitration? And I was like, yeah, for sure. Cool. And I got to see him do an arbitration in Philadelphia, which is actually where I practice now. And seeing it was like the most life-changing thing because it was the way that he was able to communicate with the arbitrators, the way that he communicated with his clients, and the way that he was able to tell a story based off of facts. I found so moving. And I remember saying, like, no, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to be able to do what this person is doing. And ever since then, I said to myself, I want to be a lawyer. And he's really helped shape my career. He's been such a big part of it. He's a mentor. I call him my stepdad. And it's been amazing getting to go. My first job out of law school was with him at a law firm, and just getting to do something that, I saw when I was young has always been, something really amazing. But really, that's what it was. It was that I got to be exposed to it very young. I'm very privileged and blessed in that way. And it was the way that, like I said, he was able to communicate and the power that he had in his words. And I said, that ability, that power is something that I want to be able be able to like harness and master.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. And I think you articulated so well what I tell people all the time is lawyers are storytellers, especially if you're in any kind of litigation or even negotiation setting, is the better storyteller often wins. And I used to joke, so I did not know I was going to be a lawyer until literally after I was done with law school and graduated during COVID and didn't have a choice. So my path's a little weird. I love that you had this aha moment and someone to be part of your journey, but I always said it makes sense to me now that I'm a litigator because when I was a little girl, I wanted to be an actress. And my mom was like, we live in Alabama and we're poor. We would need to go to Hollywood. And that's just not going to happen. So find a new dream. And I was like, okay, I guess I will. And so I always joke with people. Weirdly enough, I kind of feel like I got to live my childhood dream. Every time I go to court, I'm still me, but I have to put on my lawyer Carlie hat, and my persona is just a little bit different. And so I get to be the actress that I always wanted to be, and it's that storytelling. And the best lawyers just have such a way of doing that. So that's a really cool story. I always like to ask my lawyers that come on the podcast, what was your favorite part of law school and your least favorite part of law school?
I think my favorite part was meeting people that I became friends with for the rest of my life. So like I have a few really good friends that I met because you like trauma bond in this like really crazy experience. And I would say the worst part was the egos of the people around me. So like I guess like I hadn't been used to people that had been like told that they were brilliant their whole lives. Because that's like not what my parents said to me. Like my mom wasn't the type of mom that was like, "You're perfect, you're brilliant," and like she's the type that if like a teacher said I did something, she was like, "Yeah, no, my daughter definitely totally did that." So it was like totally different experience, and I think a lot of the other kids in law school were like they were used to being like told they were like amazing and the best, and I think being surrounded by that many egos all the time was like a lot to absorb and just kind of like take in.
So how do you feel about now that you're actually in the profession with all of those same exact egos?
You know, honestly, it's definitely it's definitely like a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Um what I think it is I think I just like talk to people straight. Like I think I just am who I am, and like some people like it, some people don't. And you know, I call people out if I think they need to be called out. And I think people call me out if they think I need to be called out. And I think um there is a lot of egos in this field. I don't think I'm the best. I don't ever want to be the best. I mean, like, I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I think I'm in the wrong room then. And I think a lot of people that go to law school are always told, like, you should pretend that you know everything. And that's never been me because I'm terribly afraid of committing malpractice, like everyone should be. So I'm never going to be the person that says like, no, I know everything. Like if I don't know something, I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to research. I'm going to figure out somebody that knows it so that they can assist me, because I am not going to be the type of person that says, no, I totally know that. I know everything about it. That's just not me. So I think like ego wise, it's just not been the thing. Like, do I think that I'm smart? Yeah. Do I think that I'll be able to figure it out? Yeah. But I also think being teachable is huge, and that's kind of where there's a like a you know like an intersectional issue when it comes to ego and being teachable, because I think a lot of lawyers have such a big ego and they're not always teachable. And I think being teachable is like a really main thing that you should learn and be able to be, because it benefits you so much in life.
I knew I was going to like you before we even started this podcast, but you've already said so many things that are sayings that I use all the time. I always say, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. Like I say that all the time. And I think you're so right. And you hit the nail on the head. And it's some of these older generations of lawyers, they feel like they have to know everything or they're somehow incompetent at their job. And so this bravado of acting like they know everything, I think there's an art and skill with going back to storytelling and just rhetoric and how we communicate, of being able to very genuinely, but in an educated way, say that you don't know the answer, but that you can still find it. I tell that to clients and to prospects. There are things that I get asked, and sometimes it's within my wheelhouse, but it's so niche that I've never seen it. Regardless of what it is, it's okay to say that you don't know. And there are ways to say it that still come across extremely intelligent and professional. And it's so much better than the alternative, because you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because I come across lawyers that you can tell they have no idea. And instead of just saying that, they just beat around the bush with all kinds of vagueness that you're like, you're wasting my time and you kind of sound silly and we're just going to pretend this didn't happen, but they're still doing it all the time. I want to ask just a couple more law questions, and then you have so many things that you do in your life. So I want to get to some of the other cool stuff too. But tell us a little bit about the type of law you practice, how you got into it, and I'll ask probably a few more questions about that before we transition.
Yeah, so I do personal injury law, so car accidents, slip and fall, dog bites. I got into it because it's what my best friend's dad did. It's what I knew I was always going to do. When I was in law school, I interned at the DA's and I worked with victims. And I think for me, working with victims has always been something that really means a lot to me. It's something that sits really close to my heart, and being able to work in the public sector is a privilege in some people, in some aspects financially. I had student loans, and I knew that just wasn't something that I was able to do based off of, one, my lifestyle, and then two, also have student loans. So I said, what's another way that I can work with people that have been injured victims? And then that's where personal injury came in, because I get to work with victims of, you know, injuries that of no fault to their own, of no fault of themselves. So,
What has been one of your craziest cases that you've had, without giving us too much that you disclose who they are and any information that we can't know? But do you have a case that you could share with us that is just like, I call them kind of my party cases, that when I'm with a group of people, they're like, tell us about what you do. I'm like, well, you'll never believe this one thing that happened.
you know what's so crazy is I can't think of one. I wish I could, but it's like I feel like I have so many cases that every time I think it can't get crazier or weirder, it does. So there isn't one that I would be able to be like, no, that's definitely the one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, no, I mean, I think, it's personal injury in Philly.
Yeah.
Put your imagination on and you'll be able to figure out how people get injured in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all over Pennsylvania, obviously, so we don't just handle Philly. But I mean, there's been so many. So I can't really. I wish I could give you one, but I can't even really just think of one.
Understandable. So I want to ask specifically about being a woman and being a Latina woman. So the law is maybe not as openly friendly to women in general right off the get-go. Do you have any experience that you would like to share, and also any advice for women going into the legal profession on how to make space for yourself and stand up for yourself and things like that?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think Latina women make up 2.5% of lawyers in America, so it's a pretty low statistic. I can tell you, I don't think I've ever worked with another Latina woman in my career.
Wow.
I think I've only ever worked with two other women in my career too. And they were both
Wow.
white women. um, I think there's a lot about, I said this to somebody and I really stand by this. I think there should be a law school class about what it's like, gender roles in law, in the legal profession, because there really is so much that is kind of like not explained to you in law school and not kind of talked about. And um, it really still is a boys club in a lot of aspects. And I think you kind of have to learn how you're going to stand firm and, set boundaries. I've always been a big proponent of setting boundaries. So for me, if like somebody says something that I'm not comfortable with, I call people out on it. Not everybody's comfortable doing that.
Mm-hmm.
My parents always taught me to like speak up for myself. And I'm incredibly privileged in that way where, my mom told me she was a scientist in the 80s and 90s in a male dominated field, obviously, because she was a female. And she was like, you're going to walk into every room like a man. And I think growing up with that kind of mindset where my mom was also, the money maker and the one that was the more, matriarchal figure, she kind of set that into me already. So the way that I've handled myself has kind of been based off of that. So I think for me, my best advice would be to stand firm on what you believe and don't like allow yourself to be compromised based off of anything. because I think a lot of people fall into that a lot where they're like, oh, well, it was just like a little comment here and there. And then they let too many things go. I call comments out initially when they're said, like the second that they're said. I'm like, I'm sorry, repeat yourself. What? Or I'm like, that's so weird. You're the same age as my father. Which is like my favorite thing to say.
That's a really good one.
Because it's like it
I've been
immediately makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah. I've been trying to incorporate this is something that I struggle with just because most of the time I'm like, it's easier just to let it go. And I've started trying to say, what do you mean by that? If someone says something, because when they have to double down and explain it, it makes them feel uncomfortable, which they should because they've already said something uncomfortable. And I feel like I've lived a long time just like, well, I don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable. But if you started it, then you should be able to own up to and take responsibility for that. But I
Yeah, I'm ready
love
to make you uncomfortable. I think that's the big thing. I think that we've lived in an entire world where the world has made a world that is made to make us feel uncomfortable, and
yeah,
a profession that has allowed us to feel uncomfortable for a lot of the time, that I'm not going to mince words when it comes to making somebody else feel uncomfortable, because they have made me uncomfortable and I'm going to respond and make them a little bit uncomfortable as well.
I agree with you. And I hope that every young female and not just lawyer, but people in the corporate world, I hope that they get to hear this conversation and take a little tidbit away because sometimes it's just knowing how to phrase that response and it's that simple. And the first time you do it, it's really scary. And the second time a little bit, and it does get easier as someone that this doesn't come as natural to me, but I'm trying to sort of set that precedent. I promise it gets
ChatGPT is
easier.
wonderful too. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. So like when somebody has said something to me that's like really out of bounds, or like
Mm-hmm.
sends me an email, I'll put into ChatGPT like, how do I respond to this in a professional way? Because this is what I really want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And ChatGPT will help me create a nicer way of putting it. Because
Yeah.
I think that's, the wonderful world of AI. Because a lot of the times, like, I try not to be reactive, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
reactive is like the number one thing that, people like to say we are as women. So I try
Yes.
not to be as reactive. Um, my sister's a teacher, and she would always like catch a bubble. So I try to catch a bubble when I get upset, where I'm just like, let me think about this for a second. And now I'm
Yes.
just like, okay, ChatGPT, how do we handle this in a professional way? But also stand firm on what I'm saying. Cause like I want the
Mm-hmm.
message to get across as clearly, just in a professional way.
One of my favorite things that I do with my interns is I sometimes have to like give it 24 hours. I need to sleep on it because my gut reaction is to be angry and sort of fire back. And one of my just codes is I'm never going to stoop. But I do want to put people in their place. So it's the art of subtle sass in an email where everything is beyond reproach. Like if they showed it to someone else, they wouldn't be like, yeah, that was a crazy response. It's like little baby zingers. And most of the time, I send one or two of those to an opposing counsel that's getting a little bit of an attitude, and then they sort of straighten out. And sometimes I have to send them to my clients too, because they're not immune from having that moment where they want to be condescending and act like they actually went to law school and that they know more than me. And so it's that art of subtle sass that I'm like, this is a teaching moment that they don't teach you in law school. You can fire back and you can do it in a way that's above reproach, that's still professional, but that really it's clear to everyone that you just won that that entire encounter. But it is quite a learned skill. I want to take this conversation a step further before we migrate a little bit out of law. Have you ever felt pressure to tone down your personality or your style within the legal realm? And I'll just start there because I know I have a lot of thoughts on it, and I feel like just our limited interaction, you probably have some thoughts as well.
You know, it's funny. I'm sure people have thought things, but
Mm-hmm.
no one has ever, like, none of my bosses have ever been like, you can't wear this, you can't say this, you can't do
Mm-hmm.
this. I did set very clear boundaries when when I got employed at a few of my firms, where I said, like, I do these things. I'm on social media. I do these things. Like, these have to be okay with me being hired. If they're not, then this isn't for me. I also, like, the way I dress at an interview is the way that I dress I would be dressing at work. So you won't see me in like a pantsuit. Um, and I did that on purpose. Like, I think I wore a leather skirt to my last interview,
I love it.
like a leather skirt and like a silk cami.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like, cause I never want to be like, I never want somebody to be like, this isn't what I signed up for. So I
Mm-hmm.
try to be as transparent as possible in the way that I am and the way that I present myself into the world. Um, Especially to my, the people that employ me. I don't want them to be like, this isn't what you said. So I think like, I mean, I dress how I dress, and I think like we don't get client complaints. Like, you can look at my Google reviews; they're all really positive. So I mean, I think, you know, the proof is in the pudding, and I always stand by
Mm-hmm.
that, and I say that in all of the meetings I've ever had, in any job I've ever had. Like, I always come with receipts, and I'm always like, hey, listen, like, look at all these, things that these people have said about me. Everyone seems like so happy. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, is there anything else? So, I mean, I haven't felt it. But I do know that there is like, I felt it on the internet, not from like my employer. So like, on the internet, people will say
Mm.
stuff. Like, they're real quick to comment and be like,
Yep.
she's not even a professional. Like, she's in a bathing suit. Like, and I'm like, I have a life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I live a life.
Yes.
I'm allowed to dress like a normal person. And I also really want to, I try really hard. And I think Gen Z does a really great job at this. I'm a millennial and I'm tired, but Gen Z is pushing so much harder for this. And I love it that professionalism isn't defined by what you wear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like I push that boundary a little bit, not as far as they push it, but a little bit. So I mean, I'm gonna wear what I find fashionable and what I like. Um, and that is, I mean, I'm still gonna zealously advocate for my clients. I'm just gonna look good doing it.
I love it. I've had a similar experience. I'm so glad you haven't felt that either. I've been fortunate in the complaints I have about former firms I was at. This is not one of them, but I have heard horror stories from friends and colleagues of uncomfortable situations they've been put in. But I think what you said is so important. So if there are any aspiring lawyers listening, I hope you'll take this to heart, because I think you really hit the nail on the head. Go into the interview and set the expectations. So if you're not going to wear a full gray suit every day, maybe put on a bright top. Like, show up how you intend to show up in the job. And that's also personality wise. I also have been doing content on and off, and had side hustles throughout my entire career as a lawyer. And I've mentioned it in my interviews. And so it seems so obvious to you and I, and we've been fortunate enough that either life circumstances or the people in our corner. My mom was a big one for me. Like, I knew how to interview and I had those skills, but I talk to people and they're just so scared and they're so desperate for a job that they're just trying to fit in and they're trying to do what they think that is wanted. And they're just saying yes to everything instead of setting those boundaries. And so it's not as scary as you think. And to your point, and how you've been able to still be yourself and bring fun, vibrant personality and style to the workplace, is showing up and saying, this is how I'm going to show up. And my big thing in interviews is like, if I'm not your cup of tea, fine. I don't have to be everybody's cup of tea. This probably isn't a good fit. And so if you show up as yourself and the firm doesn't like it, it probably wasn't a good fit for you anyway. And you were going to
Exactly.
find that out at some point. So I think it's so important to be who you are, show up as who you are. So I want to shift gears a little bit. Tell me about modeling and your content creation, and just kind of like the passion behind all of that.
Yeah, so I got into modeling about a year ago, based off of a thread. So this woman had Mal, who runs Crusades of Curves, which is like a organization that runs that does runway shows. She was posting looking for like a model in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia area, and I was like, you know what? Why not shoot my shot, right? Like, what's gonna happen?
Mhm.
And I was like, hey, I'm not a formal model, but I'd love to be considered. And she was like, okay, we love to work with new talent. Like, send me a walking video. And what I learned about like the modeling industry, it's a lot like the legal industry, in the fact that people like quick responses. Like, they want, their time matters, right?
Hmm.
So the second she sent that to me, like I think I asked my paralegal that morning to film me walking down the hallway in my office. And I sent it back to her like right away. And she was like, "You're booked." And I walked a runway that September. And I actually just walked a runway for her in LA 2 weeks ago. And it's been an amazing experience. Like from that runway, I've gotten a lot of other gigs. Um, and it's been quite a journey. Like it's not that I never thought that it could happen to me. I just didn't think it could happen in this lifetime.
Hmm.
And I say that because in my early 30s I went through a divorce, and I really figured out a way to reshape my life and redefine myself. And I said I'm no longer going to accept anything that isn't worthy of me, and I'm going to ask for everything and take everything. And I wanted to do modeling, and I said this is what it is, and it's been an amazing experience. Crusades of Curves and Mallory is an amazing organization, and she curates these amazing shows where she picks these great girls that are all amazing. Like everyone was so nice. They helped me learn how to walk because I'm used to walking into a courtroom like not walking in like giant like heels down a runway. So it's been life changing. I've gotten to travel with it. It's been amazing. It's really been a game changer for me, and it's been an experience that I wouldn't change for the world. It's like, I say to my friends, that song from like Lizzie McGuire, like hey now, this is what dreams are made of. Like that encompasses every time I get to do like a modeling or runway experience, because it really is like what my dreams were made of. Like it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's the whole concept of you're getting to live the life that you dreamed of. It's reality now. It's not even a dream. That is such a phenomenal story. I want to ask you, as a family and divorce lawyer, you've clearly made this dramatic transformation and seem so much happier, just the way that you talk about how you decided to shift your mindset after the divorce. Do you have any advice for someone freshly divorced on truly how to repurpose your life and find who you are and say yes to great opportunities and say no to the things that don't serve you?
Yeah, I mean, my best advice to anyone would be like, always make sure you get a prenup. Um,
Yes.
please, like, no matter what. Like, I was in law school. When I got married before that, I got married when I was in college. I met my ex husband when I was 18. Um, I wish now I would have gotten a prenup. But honestly, I think so many people find divorce as like a means like failure for women. And I think like my best advice is um, steer away from the people that allow you to view it as a failure, because it's not.
Mm.
And there were so many people around me that like, oh, I feel so bad for you, and I'm like, don't feel bad for me. I'm thriving. What do you mean? Like, you don't. Why would you feel bad for me? Feel bad for like him. You know what I mean? Like, don't make it this sad thing. And I think put yourself around energy that is positive and that
Mhm.
pushes you up, because it's really easy to fall into this like really dark space. And just from a lawyer aspect, like document everything, protect yourself. Like I'm a whole ass lawyer, and I was like, what is happening? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say like reach for the stars after. Don't let anything hold you back, and let this be a redefining moment of like you rising from whatever ashes that there were, because it's like a rebirth. And I wouldn't change it for the world. Like I'm 1,000 times happier now. I'm living a life that I never thought I would have gotten to live. And again, like I think society does this thing with women that we don't do with men. When like men get a divorce, we're not like, oh my God, like we don't view
Yeah.
it as a failure for them, but we always view it as a failure for women, and it's very weird. So I would say like just stick around people that are, building you up and that are supporting you in the things that are making you feel whole again and feeling good. So
Well, I like that you said, don't feel sorry for me, feel sorry for him. We're
always.
launching a kind of divorce merch line, and one of the candles says his loss. And underneath it says, seriously, the judge said so. And it made me think of that immediately when you said, feel sorry for him. So that might make a good candle
I
as
love
well.
that. Yes.
Because you're right. I actually think a lot of men get congratulated on divorce. And for women, we do this thing where like, I'm so sorry. And I am sorry people have to go through it. But like you said, it's, also letting you get to that next best chapter of your life and figure out what comes next. And we do have a weird way of viewing it in our society. But I want to ask you, you do so many things. And I always talk about like, I juggle so many things and I'm just trying not to let any of the balls hit the ground. And so I'm curious how you manage your energy and choose where to focus when you're juggling so many things. And I'm excited personally for the answer. And I think it will be good for the listeners too.
Honestly, I have amazing people around you. I have an amazing fiance. I have great team at my job. Like my paralegal is amazing. Um, I have a person that helps me manage like my social media stuff, who's one of my good friends. So, I mean, I think I have a great team of people around you that are better at things that you're not, like time management and remembering things. Like I'd be lost without my paralegal. Like Kim, shout out to you for helping my life. Um, and I think like, obviously shout out to my fiance because he really does. I think just have good people around you. And honestly, time management is big. Set clear boundaries. Like I really do try to set boundaries because I think like with work, it's really easy to not, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
say like I have this time and this time where I'm unavailable and stick to it. It's really easy to fall into a trap of being like, I'm going to be available all the time. And I try to be available all the time. Like, the real tea on it is like being a millennial woman, like you have this like constant guilt of needing to be available and needing to be like, accepted by your employer. And like I'll always be available for my clients, but that's a different answer than always being available to my employer, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, um you put effort into the things that matter to you. And just make sure you're coming up for air. And I also don't except I don't say I can do something I know I can't do. Like I think a lot of people are willing to like push their limits. I know because I am sick because I have an autoimmune condition that there's only so much that I can do. And I think like I've gotten better with age at being like I can't agree to this. I can't do this. I can't no, I have to say no to this. I can't do this. I'm unavailable to do this for work. I'm unavailable to do this for this content. I'm unavailable, setting boundaries on those kind of things and sticking firm with them. That's the other huge thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like you said, as a millennial woman, we do have this weird compulsion to be able to do everything and say yes to everything. And I said to somebody the other day, for most people, when you say maybe, it turns into a no. And my problem my whole life is my maybes all turn into yeses. Like when I say maybe, it's my attempt to set boundaries and to not say yes to everything. And then if someone follows up even one time, I'm like, okay, I'll make it work. And that's been one of the hardest things for me as a professional and even in my personal life is learning to say, I don't have the capacity for this, or I don't have the skill set for this, because we have this desire to want to help everybody. I love something you said, and I wanted to just point it out for people is you said that you will always have time for your clients, but that doesn't mean you always have time for your employer. And I think that is beautiful. And it's such a great way to conceptualize. Yes, we can always be there for the people we're serving, but we can still have those work-life boundaries with our employer. And I don't think I've ever heard it said that way. So I think that was really cool. I want to ask you one last question before our lightning round. It can be something we've already talked about or something different. What is a topic that you could gab about forever? So I always bring this back to that whole Roman Empire trend. Like, what's your Roman Empire that you're always thinking about and you could talk to someone for hours about?
Clothes.
I love it. Okay, so we'll start the lightning round with something related to that. Power suit or glam dress?
Glam dress. Wait,
Ooh.
stop. It depends. Okay, so like I'm not like a generic power suit, like a tailored power suit made for me by a specific company,
Mm-hmm.
by a tailor. Yes, that I will do
Okay.
because there's a specific tailor in New York City. I forget if I think it's called Dahlia NYC, and they have made me gorgeous suits that are cropped. So yes, power suit when it comes to them only.
Ooh. Okay, I love that. So if it was a glam dress, do you have a go-to color?
Red.
I figured it was going to be red. You're wearing a wonderful red today. Do you have a go-to hype song that you listen to before court or any big event in your life?
Yes. I'll make a man out of you from Mulan.
That's such a good one. You are my idol. I was, and can we also add the Hey Now, Hey Now? I don't know if that's the name of it, but I know exactly which Hillary Duff song you're talking about. So what is that one for?
That
Just
one
when you're
is
feeling
honestly just,
happy?
yeah, just when I'm happy.
Okay, I love that. Do you have a favorite courtroom snack or something that's always in your work bag?
Gum, whitening gum.
Okay. Mine is beef jerky or a beef stick. And I've actually had to like crouch on the floor in the hallway a few weeks ago eating my beef jerky because I missed breakfast and I thought I had two cases and I thought they were both getting continued. No, of course it never goes the way you think it's going to go. So my stomach growled so audibly loud. My paralegal was sitting next to me. And usually like you always think your stomach growls loud and then you ask people, "Oh, did you hear that?" They're like, "No, I didn't hear anything." She whipped her head and looked at me. I was like, "I'll be back." And so I started stuffing beef jerky in the hallway because we had a hearing that was going to last at least an hour and a half. And I was like, I can't have the judge hearing my stomach growl the whole time. Okay. Do you have a favorite compliment to receive or to give or both?
You're exactly as you are in real person as you are on the internet.
Ooh, that is a really good one. That is really good. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Do you have a coffee order?
The Starbucks horchata.
Okay.
The cold brew
And
horchata.
I like to ask this one to my lawyers. Is there a favorite lawyer related TV show or movie that you have?
Wow. I don't watch lawyer TV because I just feel like I mean, I like Law and Order SVU, but like, I just feel
Okay.
like it's so, like, for me, it's like so unrealistic. And I haven't found one that's like really great about personal injury, that
That's
like
fair.
fits well for me. Cause like, it's not, um, I haven't found one. So no, I mean, I would say SVU. I love SVU. I think it's a really great.
Okay. I get asked all the time. People are like, "Is Suits realistic?" I'm like, "It's
No,
absolutely not realistic at
no
all."
one looks
But
like that.
yeah,
No
I'm
one
like,
looks like that.
if you enjoy it, fine. I was like, also, they're not going to court but once or twice a year on big giant cases, and their court cases will be like 5 seconds of the show. Like, yeah, that's not accurate at all. But I really got into How to Get Away with Murder in college, and then going to law school and actually learning about the law. I'm like, this is so wrong. It's entertaining, but it's so wrong. And I've yet to find, I agree with you, a show that really seems in any way realistic and gives a good vantage point of what it's really like. And so you mentioned earlier about people are quick to comment things on social media. And my favorite is when I post something, especially that's like satire or a joke, and someone's like, "Well, I don't understand. Didn't you have to do discovery and blah 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 and why?" And like they get so serious, and I'm literally will respond, "Oh, looks like someone's watched a little bit too much lawyer TV."
Yeah.
Because none of that is how it works. But thank you for your input. But I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It was such a treat to chat with you and hear a little bit more about your story and how you're trailblazing in your area and helping make sure everyone that is a victim is getting the advocacy that they need in the Philly area. And I think the whole state, it sounds like, as well. And I love all the content that you're putting out there. And I think you're doing such a good job of showing people we don't have to be your father's lawyer, that we have lives and we are both our own individual person and a lawyer. And I think you do such a great job showcasing that so that aspiring lawyers know that there is another path. You don't have to be just that straight and narrow, old school, traditional attorney to be successful. And so I want to thank you for doing that and thank you for being on the show. And with that, until next time, this is the Gavel Gab podcast.